Thank you for joining us today on this edition of Business Daily. I'm Kim Young-gil in Seoul. Let's first get started with a look at today's highlights. The U.S. Federal Reserve plans to reduce its $4.5 trillion balance sheet in October, gradually unwinding its massive stimulus program. President Moon Jae-in tells U.S. investors that now is the time to invest in South Korea, insisting there are unlimited growth opportunities once North Korea stops its nuclear program. These stories and more coming right up. We begin in the United States. The Federal Reserve has announced it's ready to begin drawing back its historic quantitative easing program, which started nearly a decade ago. The central bank also kept its key interest rate steady for now, but hinted at one more rate hike before the end of the year. Eunice Kim reports.
Following its two-day policy-setting meeting on Wednesday, the Federal Reserve snuck in at the end of its statement that it's ready to begin rolling back its quantitative easing program next month. The announcement comes as the U.S. Central Bank for months had been hinting at the impending reversal on the view the world's largest economy's recovery is strong from the financial crisis of nearly 10 years earlier. Its $4.5 trillion balance sheet will be reduced by $10 billion a month initially, gradually quickening the pace each quarter until it reaches $50 billion.
We also decided that in October, we will begin the balance sheet normalization program that we outlined in June. This program will reduce our securities holdings in a gradual and predictable manner.
The Fed kept its benchmark interest rate at 1 to 1.25%, while indicating there is one more hike before the year is up, and 3 next year. But low inflation remains a concern. Yellen said she could not explain why inflation has been so low. The central bank's preferred gauge, excluding volatile food and energy prices, fell to 1.4% in July, down from 1.9% in January, and well below the Fed's 2% target. The committee said Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria, which devastated entire communities, could be a drag to the economy in the near term, but expected the economic trajectory to not be impacted in the medium term. The widely expected move led to incremental moves up on Wall Street, still good enough to push the Dow and S&P 500 to fresh records. As the U.S. dollar strengthened, Asian stocks slipped. Korea's Kospi and Kosdaq traded in mostly negative territory on this Thursday. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
The Bank of Korea's governor wasted little time to reassure nervous investors following the Fed's announcement. It says the U.S. central bank's decision to start trimming its balance sheet will have limited impact on South Korea's financial markets and the wider economy. Our Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Korea's top central banker Lee says the U.S. Federal Reserve's tapering plan is within the extent of the forecasted range, adding it should have a minimal impact on local financial markets. Regarding the direction of the Bank of Korea's key rate policy, he said inflation and the health of the domestic economy will guide future decisions. He also added that the bank is keeping a close eye on volatility in the local financial market, with growing geopolitical risks stemming from intensifying provocations from North Korea. Despite the reassurances from the BOK governor, the Fed's move could lead to an exodus of foreign capital, since it's likely to put upward pressure on market rates as major central banks normalize their fiscal policies. Back in 2005, there was a huge flight of foreign capital worth $17.4 billion over the space of 2 years after the U.S. raised interest rates by more than Korea. To prevent this happening again, the BOK could consider raising its own benchmark rate from the record low of 1.25%, which has been kept steady for more than a year. An increase in market rates would make it harder for households to repay their debt, which currently amounts to a staggering $1.2 trillion. And this could affect the already sluggish domestic consumption, which is holding back the recovery pace of the Korean economy. Kim Ji-yeon, Business Daily.
The Moon administration has finalized its decision to approve an $8 million aid package for North Korean women and children. The Unification Ministry said the money will be used by 2 UN agencies. It's earmarked $4.5 million to the World Food Program, which will provide food to North Korean hospitals. $3.5 million will go to UNICEF for medicine and food to malnourished children and pregnant women. The move has already invited criticism from opposition lawmakers who say the move is ill-timed given Pyongyang's recent string of provocations. The date for aid's release has yet to be decided. In his third day in New York, President Moon Jae-in urged American business leaders to invest in South Korea and set aside fears coming out of North Korea. The South Korean leader emphasized that now is the time to invest in South Korea. Our chief Blue House correspondent Moon Jae-in is currently traveling with the president, and she files this report from New York.
New York is an international hub for global finance, commerce, and business, one of the world's largest financial centers. And South Korean President Moon Jae-in, on the third day of his 4-day New York visit, set his eyes on Wall Street, rolling up his sleeves to reassure big-name investors that his economy remains strong despite all. Stephen Schwarzman of Blackstone, David Rubenstein of Carlyle, Dan Quayle of Cerberus, and President Moon Jae-in chatting over grilled sea bass. It's a rare sight, but the president's message to 200 top U.S. investors at his first overseas investor relations event is loud and clear. Korea-U.S. free trade agreement benefits both nations, and now more than ever is the time to invest in South Korea.
이렇게 한미 FTA가 거의 확대, 시장 접근성 향상, 투자, 일자리 창출 등 양국 모두에게 이익이 되는 협정인 것은 분명한 사실입니다.
Mr. Moon, however, said upon Washington's request, Seoul will have a dialogue with an open mind. But his key goal in his first IR event, quelling investment concerns stemming from continued threats posed by his neighbor to the north.
최근 북한의 핵과 미사일 도발에 대해 경제금융계에도 우려를 갖고 계실 것입니다.
But Mr. Moon asserted that when North Korea abandons its nuclear missile program and take the path to dialogue, a new economic map will be drawn and Korea will become an even more attractive investment destination.
나는 지금이야말로 다시 도약하는 한국 경제에 투자해야 할 시점이라고 자신 있게 말씀드립니다.
Sharing of views that's very comforting and important. And we wish them well on that. What I'd say is that the Koreans make great partners.
The South Korean president now has a big day ahead of him. On the fourth and final day of his New York visit comes the highlight. He'll make his debut on the United Nations stage. He'll deliver a key message to North Korea and the international community and sit down with his ally, U.S. President Donald Trump. Moon Jae-in, Business Daily, New York.
Top trade officials from Korea and the U.S. met in person for the first time in Washington on Wednesday. Seoul's Trade Minister Kim Hyun-jong and his American counterpart Robert Lighthizer discussed possible amendments to the South Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. A spokesperson for the U.S. Trade Office said Kim and Lighthizer discussed ways to move forward following their video conference meeting in August, but no further details were disclosed. The talks come after President Trump's denouncement of the FTA, which he blames for Washington's growing trade deficit with Seoul. President Moon Jae-in held relay summits and rounds of shuttle diplomacy on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly to discuss various matters with global leaders. With the president signaling his debut on the world diplomatic stage, what is he doing to promote economic diplomacy? Let's tune in.
The gathering of 120 nations at the UN was a great chance for President Moon Jae-in to test his diplomatic mettle, with a focus not only on North Korea, but also on matters in Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Africa. While attending the UN General Assembly, President Moon held summit talks with the presidents of the Czech Republic and Senegal. in addition to the usual bilateral engagement with the 5 permanent Security Council members, signaling a diversification of his foreign policy. President Moon also took the time to promote the upcoming 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, underlining hopes that the Games will bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. During the visit, President Moon and British Prime Minister Theresa May agreed to expand their countries' economic ties through a bilateral free trade agreement, while recognizing the need for a peaceful resolution to the North Korean nuclear issue. In addition to his role in tackling the North Korean threat, President Moon's economic diplomacy is now also being put to the test.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Kim Se-wan from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. Good to see you again, Professor.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, during President Moon's visit to New York, it's worth mentioning his efforts to diversify his diplomatic engagements. Now, would you say he's trying to branch out to forge closer economic ties with other countries that maybe weren't on Korea's radar in the past?
These days, Korean exports and imports are surrounded by a huge threat. China, the largest trading partner, is punishing Korean corporations related to THAAD deployment. And the US, the second largest trading partner, became much more protective than before in trading policies. But Korea has to keep up with international trade because it is the lifeline of the Korean economy. So in these circumstances, diversifying trading partners is extremely important for fostering future economic growth.
Right. Now, Korea and Britain have also agreed in principle for a new free trade deal if the UK leaves the European Union as planned. Now, what are the ramifications of this agreement, Professor?
Actually, we have FTA with EU from July of 2011. But if UK officially exits the EU, that automatically repeals the FTA with UK, Britain. So if UK gets out of EU, there are lots of political problems. So because of that reason, we never know when exactly they will be exiting EU. But in these circumstances, independently pursuing FTA with Britain is a preemptive action to maintain free trade relation with Britain, which is the largest economy in Europe.
Right. So, and also, like during his visit, President Moon also promoted next year's Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games also. Now, do you believe the success or the failure of the event will have maybe considerable impact on Korea's economy?
I believe it is very important. Actually, the economic success of Pyeongchang Winter Olympic is very important because for avoiding a negative aftermath of the big events. Actually, Brazil is experiencing serious recession after hosting Summer Olympic and Soccer World Cups. So therefore, President Moon's marketing of the Winter Pyeongchang Olympic will be a great support to raising income from the events. Also, that also raises Korea's reputation together.
Right. Now, the leaders of Korea, Japan, and the U.S. are scheduled to also hold summit talks.
Right.
But President Trump will likely bring up the issue of the South Korea-U.S. FTA and the Washington's arms sales.
Right.
Now, but with the ongoing North Korea's provocations, do you believe their differences on those issues will be set aside for now, Professor?
Well, officially, the 3 summits of Korea, U.S., and Japan will try to intensify mutual cooperation against the North Korea's missile test and nuclear bomb test. But basically, Mr. Trump is a great businessman. He really wants to increase U.S. employment and GDP. So there is a possibility that he can make use of North Korea-related situation as a leverage to sell more weapons to Korea and Japan, and also to gain a favorable position in renegotiating FTA with Korea. Actually, when he visited Saudi Arabia early this year, he successfully completed $110 billion weapon deals, and under very difficult situations, geopolitical situation in the Middle East region.
Right, and in November, President Moon will attend the APEC. There's also the ASEAN +3, and also the East Asia Summit. Now, do you believe President Moon will continue his push for economic diplomacy, and which direction will it go, Professor?
Well, as we talked about, diversifying trading partner became one of the top priority of the Korean government policies. For example, China and US together covers 40% of the Korean export and 30% of the Korean imports. So this too much dependent and biased trading structure with only two countries is not normal. So therefore, we need to expand our economic relation with countries in South Asia, South America, and Middle East, and Africa altogether. And this is what exactly Japanese governments and German government have been doing in the past and now.
Well, certainly those meetings will be a litmus test for President Moon's economic diplomacy. Thank you for your insight today, Professor.
Thank you.
The 7th Asia-Europe Ministerial Economic Forum kicked off in Seoul today for the first in 12 years. Some 250 economic and trade ministers from 30 European and 21 Asian countries are in attendance of the ASEAN meeting. They will discuss ways to tackle growing trade protectionism and forge innovative partnerships between two continents. Seoul's Trade Minister Bae Kung-gyu had expressed interest in holding talks with his Chinese counterpart regarding China's retaliation over Korea's deployment of a THAAD missile defense system. Yet the proposal floundered after Beijing decided to send its Vice Minister of Trade instead. Toshiba has approved the sale of its semiconductor division, Toshiba Memory, in a $21 billion deal to a consortium led by U.S. consulting firm Bain & Company. Other key members include Korea's SK hynix, as well as hosts of other American and Japanese companies, including Apple and Dell. The sale follows the bankruptcy of Toshiba's nuclear unit, and an estimated $6.65 billion will be taken off Toshiba's books as it aims to become debt-free by March. The consortium has agreed to limit the voting power of SK hynix to avoid the possibility of an antitrust lawsuit. The newest smartphones from both Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics have now hit store shelves in Korea. LG's latest flagship is the V30, while Samsung's Galaxy Note 8 has hit the market after securing 850,000 pre-orders. Market watchers are paying close attention to the V30 to see if the phone can compete with the Note 8, as well as the new iPhones, which are being released in Korea next month. With this aggressive pricing, LG is pinning its hopes on the V30, hoping to turn the company's fortunes around following sluggish sales in the past few years. From big data and automation to the Internet of Things, what many are calling the fourth industrial revolution is expected to completely transform the job market. Korea's Gyeonggi-do Province and Seoul National University invited a group of international experts on Wednesday to discuss how to be prepared for the coming changes. Won Jung-wan reports.
The big forum, first held in 2014, took place in Pangyo, Gyeonggi-do Province, on Wednesday. The forum looked at global trends, challenges, and strategies associated with the fourth industrial revolution.
The Big Forum 2017 aims to provide initiatives on issues that may arise in the big data industry and to revitalize local industry by establishing global standards and creating a sharing economy.
With the fourth industrial revolution, the so-called big data era, fast approaching, the forum focused on three key agendas: the future of the workforce, the shared economy, and manufacturing innovation. The workforce issue took center stage, with experts giving their views on the future of work in the era of automation. Professor Carl Frey, known for his work on the effects of industrial changes in the workforce, delivered a keynote speech.
We don't know how many new jobs that are going to emerge. We don't know exactly what the future labor market will look like. What we do know is that with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the rise of autonomous driving, the potential scope of automation has expanded, and as a result of that, roughly 47% of jobs are exposed to automation.
There were also activities related to the fourth industrial revolution, such as a virtual reality experience center and physical fitness assessment using big data. The fourth industrial revolution will bring many opportunities, but also many challenges. This forum looks to discuss some of those issues to prepare us for what the future might hold. Won Jung-wan, Business Daily.
Following recent food scares in Korea, ranging from contaminated eggs from local farms and tainted sausages from Europe, people have become more cautious of what they eat. Amid the worries, many citizens are now trying their hand at urban farming to grow their own fresh vegetables in their backyard. Take a closer look.
A farmer's market opened this past weekend in Seoul. From fresh vegetables like green beans and eggplants to organic fruits, the place is full of healthy produce. At this market, producers communicate with and sell their goods directly to the customers. Many urban and rural farmers are taking part in this event, which is held twice a month and attracts more than 3,000 visitors.
This farmers market opened 5 years ago in 2012. Customers here can meet farmers and get more information on the product to build trust and form relationships.
There's growing distrust when shopping for food due to what the media has been reporting recently. But here, sales are conducted by farmers who grew the produce themselves, so I can put my concerns at ease.
At the market, this booth is selling a wide variety of fresh vegetables.
여기서 파는 애들이 다 뭔가 들어간 게 안 들어갔어요. 그래서 빨리 드시는 게 가장 좋아요. 보존료 같은 게 안 들어간 거랑.
Park Jung-ja is a farmer who has been taking part in the event for the last 5 years. Her products, which are sold on the same day they are harvested, are always popular among customers.
Sharing my passion for farming with others, offering my products, and making them happy is a very fulfilling experience for me. It's a delight to bond with others and make food with them here.
Park Jung-ja's farm is situated on the outskirts of Seoul. She's growing various produce such as napa cabbages, radishes for making kimchi, and herbs like basil and mint. It all started 10 years ago when Park began farming on a rooftop garden. After tending to them only on weekends, she has now created a full-fledged farm on a small plot of rented land. Park says communicating with those who are interested in farming is the most rewarding part of urban farming.
Eventually, I would like to go back to my hometown to farm and build a community there.
In the past, growing vegetables in a backyard garden used to be a spare time hobby, primarily for the middle-aged. But now the so-called urban farming trend is catching on fast. The number of urbanites who are farming in the city have exceeded 1.6 million people, according to recent statistics. The government hopes to revitalize the city with urban farming and furthermore create jobs and foster growth in the industry.
People are feeling the necessity of self-grown produce, given the recent food safety scares. Urban farming also has side benefits of mitigating the problems of unemployment and population aging.
Farming doesn't come easy for those in the early stages. That's why products like these, utilizing IT technology, can help novice farmers who are just starting off.
보시면 온도는 괜찮은데 토양이 좀 건조하고 빛이 조금 부족하다고 나오네요.
Sensors installed in pots gauge the plant's humidity, temperature, and illumination. Not only that, the use of IoT technology makes farming easier to manage in any time and place.
In the past, I wasn't aware of the conditions of my plant and when to water them, so many of them died out. But now that I know what exactly it needs, I've become much better at raising them.
A venture company came up with the idea of smart pots. Their goal is to encourage more people to farm by starting off small with the use of pots.
I hope more people can benefit from our products by managing their farms just as they would look after a pot. In the future, we hope to develop more products and create an industry where you can instantly grow and eat your own produce.
Urban farming is now becoming more popular in Korea. With the number of farms on the rise, it is hoped that the industry will grow even further in the future.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with more business news that matters to you. Until then, goodbye.